Hello internet friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lindsay. If you're new here, hey, what up? Happy to have you. Today we're going to talk about the 8 cognitive functions. If you were looking for a video in which I would just read to you Carl Jung's definitions of the cognitive functions, I'm not going to do that in this video. I'm going to paint you a picture of how I perceive each function. I've been studying these functions for a bit now, and I am going to give you some anecdotes, warning, they will be in there, some overarching concepts just to illustrate to you how these functions will come across in real life. So that being said, we're going to get into it right now. Here we go. The way that I speak about these functions will be from that saver capacity. It means that they're innately programmed into you. You are not trying to do this function. It is a part of you. It is what you do as default, and that's the way in which we're going to talk about them. All right, we're going to kick it off with the intuitive functions. We're going to start with NE, which is extroverted intuition. All right, so people who have extroverted intuition, they're all about new ideas and simulating new ideas and having multiple ideas. So 3 great strengths I see for people who have NE. They are just unique to their own sense of, I have this idea, this concept, and it could be totally unrelated to things in the sensory world, but to me, I either like it or it makes sense to me, and I'm going to make this my own. So they are very original people. They are very creative. One of the most creative types are people who have this NE function as one of their savior functions. And also they are just very spontaneous people, because any of the extroverted observer functions, which are either NE or SE, they're less concerned about the reducing down of either concepts or reality. And so they are going to be the ones who are more spontaneous, more sometimes fun, I like to say, right? The ENFPs, they're a really fun crowd. And so the NEs are more spontaneous, fun, creative, original. They're really great artists a lot of times. They have just, if you're in a brainstorming session and you want someone who can spout off a bunch of ideas, a lot of them could be absolutely terrible, but then you're looking for that one gem, invite someone with an NE function and they're a great match for that area. So some language elements of NE are going to be the what if. They might say, well, what about, could we do this thing? Or what about, wouldn't this be fun? Or if we did this, wouldn't that be really neat or cool or interesting? They're all about the what about, which is like the idea of this new idea, concept, thing that popped up in their heads. All right, so now we're gonna move on to NI, a personal favorite of mine. This is my first savior function. I have some videos on it specifically, but we're just gonna brush the surface here, right? So 3 of the strengths I would say for NI is global understanding, or just understanding as a whole. And NI, what it likes to do is see multiple different pieces that exist in the universe and in the world, and it likes to pull those together and pull them into a central concept, idea, or principle, and make all those things work together. So it's unifying the parts of in the abstract and pulling it into a centralized idea, principle, or working. Number 2, NI is very conceptual in terms of it can take a principle or an understanding of something, and then it can apply that understanding to multiple different circumstances. So whereas someone may, be in a new circumstance and they're like, I have to learn how to do this thing. It's new. I don't know what to do. What NI will do is like, oh, this situation or this thing seems like this other thing I know about. I'm going to just take this known understanding and apply it to this new situation, maybe moving around a few parts, and it should work. And 3, I would say NI is a very visionary function in terms of it can really see what it wants to achieve. It sees its endpoint all the time. And then what it does is organizes all of the moving parts, not in reality, and it will have to apply it in reality through its sensory function on the bottom, but it will take all of these elements and it will interwork them into achieving that goal. It'll achieve that vision. So once the vision is set, it's just rolling out those pieces, because NI already knows what steps should come next, what pieces are missing, what needs to be filled in order to achieve whatever that end goal is. You'll see I'm not usually referring to specific things, hardly ever when I'm speaking. I'm not talking about the hanger, the coat, the person, the this, the that. I'm talking about the idea of, all right, let's stop talking about me. Let's get to some other functions, which are ridiculously amazing. The extroverted sensing, which is SE. And I know I can often be kind of a fangirl around this function because it's in my 4th slot and I struggle with it, okay? And so I just find it so amazing how great these people are at being present. People who have this as a savior function. So I would say the number one strength of SE is absolutely being present in what is happening currently in reality. They really respect how things currently are and how they currently work as it relates to real things. Another strength is SE is a very relevant function. So if you want to know kind of like what is like going on now, like what is relevant now currently in the circumstance of the world and what is going on, SE users are just on the ball. I have some friends who have the SE function and they just know what is cooler than me, like all the time. Like they just like know because they're living in the present, like they're living and breathing what is actually happening now instead of like my space cadet brain, which is like thinking about some random concept that I'm like, that could pull together with this other thing that I'm working on. Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be great? And then it could pull into this thing. And it's like, I'm off there in cyberspace and they're just like, yeah, this is what people like right now. And I'm just like, oh, would you look at that? And the third strength I would say of SE is it's a very applicational function in terms of people with this function as a savior are very willing to collect information and things that are relevant to what's going on in the situation in order to make it work, in order to make things happen, but they're willing to go and gather the elements that are needed for the application of the thing to actually occur. Some language elements of this function would be the thing, the very specific thing. So when I say thing, they're actually talking about a real thing. So the thing, this person, would you like a real thing? How does this real thing apply? And so you'll hear them reference actual things. So, you know, can you get the calendar? Can you retrieve this message? I am going to go do this and this thing at this and this time. Very sensory, clear, great function to have. All right, the next function we're going to hit is SI, which is introverted sensing. Now this function, there could be aspects of it to someone that may kind of seem similar to NI. However, there's a very big difference between SI and NI, and that is that SI is referencing things in reality in terms of its organization and process. So I would say the first strength of SI is it's very organized. It's very organized in reality as it relates to things. And that may be physical things like things in your home. It could be very organized in terms of money, very organized in terms of record keeping, and very fact-based, like very organized in the facts, what is factual, what is not factual, because it's referencing exactly in the sensory, this is how it is. I will pull out facts from time to time, but in general, I'm like, this concept as a whole is real. SI is saying, because X plus Y equals Z, then the answer must be Z. And then I'm gonna come in with the NI and be like, because X plus Y equals Z in this instance, but if you looked at it this way, it could actually equal R and Q. So are you looking at it this way or are you looking at it this way? Because let's look at it from the RQ side, and then that makes all these other things happen, which actually means the answer is this. So that is how SI and NI differ. I just wanted to throw that in there for the sake of, you know, clarity in the sensory. I would say another amazing strength of SI is it's very structured. It really creates standards across the physical world that should apply systematically to different things. And it creates that level of, this is the level that we are operating at. This is what is clear from this moment to the next moment. This is the step from this step to this step. And this is the process to get from here to here to here, because this is the way that we have established to do this certain thing. So it is very structured. It is how so many businesses are able to have predictable outcomes all around the world. So a great reference point is like fast food industries. They use a very SI system, which means everyone does everything the same way in the same order, and therefore they're able to produce the same result. That is a very SI oriented system. So in general, language elements of SI are going to be very systematic, process oriented. First this, then that, next you will, and these are all referring to sensory things in reality. All right, next we're going to move on to FE. The FE function, which I struggle to simulate in my life all of the time. I'm trying to get better. And someone the other day commented on a video saying that they could tell I've worked hard on FE because it was shining through. And it made my little FI so happy on the inside. People with FE have this sense of knowing and understanding of what the external world loves, values, what they dislike. I mean, it's the ultimate function of marketing, I'd like to say. Because, you know, if you're trying to sell something to someone or trying to get someone to buy in, it's like that emotional pull, knowing what that person loves or likes or, you know, wants is such a huge component of that. And it's like, I just wish I could just put that function on sometimes and just wear it as a hat. I would say the next strength of FE is emotional respect. FE really respects and holds space for people as they are going through emotional experiences, whether that be joy. They're able to kind of tune into that joy with you and experience that emotion with you, whether that be sadness, whether that be, and even if it's something that they're not personally experiencing, they're able to, like, the best thing I can say is hold space, which is such like a new age term, but like they're able to just hold space and go through that emotion that someone is going through and just be okay being there. And, you know, I know everyone can get uncomfortable, you know, things like that. It's all relevant to any type, but they see the value in being with someone through these emotional type experiences and are able to hold space while that is happening, or while it may happen in the future, depending on what other functions they have paired with it. And the last thing about FE is it's a very caring function. Like people with FE, if they like you, they really care if you're happy. They really care if, you know, they don't want you to be sad. They don't want you to be mad. They want people to be content, generally speaking. And, you know, they will work in the external world to make those circumstances happen for people, or to, you know, create things that will give them that future. And they're just very caring individuals, have a lot of respect towards them and everything they're able to achieve. All right, so some language elements of FE are going to be they love, they hate, we can enjoy, nobody likes. Those are going to be a few anecdotes you can push to. All right, let's move on to one of my not so good functions, but still there functions. It's FI, introverted feeling. So one of the greatest strengths of FI is its sense of internal value. What is important to them? What makes them mad, sad? What makes them experience certain emotions? They're very deeply oriented towards their own emotional spectrum. It's a function that doesn't feel obligated to reference the outside world and what it needs in terms of what works for people or necessarily what other people like. It is about its own depth of like and dislike and all the other emotions that I'm totally missing right now that fall into that. It is very transparent in terms of it doesn't feel obligated to wear a facade in terms of making it look like someone else or trying to be someone else. It's very authentic and true to who it is because its own set of values, it's what steers its own ship. Language of FI is going to be I love, I hate, I can't stand, I am so saddened by, this really makes me feel, all of those good things. All right, next on to TE, which is extroverted thinking, which is one of my savior functions. It is second in my stack. And extroverted thinking. So what are the strengths there? TE is very integrative, and that's kind of the word I've started coining onto this function, is its integrative abilities as it relates to other logic that exists in the world and in the universe. It really respects how things will work logically with and around other integrations. I would say its next strength is efficiency. It's looking for what will work the best as it relates to other things. And third, I would say solving is generally a strength because TE is looking to help the outside world as it relates to solving issues and making things work for them, the external side of things. Language you'll hear in TE is, does that work? How can I get this to work better? I know what will fix this. I can figure this out. This should help. And moving on to TI, which is our last function we are hitting today. This is our number 8. So TI, I would say number 1 strength is its own sense of personal reason. Does this work for me in terms of what I am doing, whether it's in life, in the future? Does this work according to my own logic of the things that I need to do? It is an amazingly self-aware function in regards to knowing what decisions it should or should not make according to what makes sense for the self. Number 2 strength, I would say, is logical depth. And TI is so much more willing to go deep down within its own logic to find answers to things just by using its own self. Sometimes they'll come up with an answer like 4 days later for something they are looking to solve. So it's an amazing function in terms of logical depth. And third, I would say, is personal truth. So TI really respects what it knows to be true according to its own understanding and logic. These are understandings that they have found to be established and hold weight. And so it's going to be hard to convince them otherwise. That's why a lot of TI users are kind of known as debaters with certain things, because you are trying to disprove that person's personal logic. Some language elements are, this is how, I know if, this, then that doesn't prove to me, blank. This isn't clear to me in this way. Again, it's pinging off its own sense of internal logic. All right, guys, that's it for this video. There is a blog post below with some of these things that I have spoken about today. You can reference that if you like. Again, there's a lot of anecdotes in here. Everyone does everything at some point in their life. We can all simulate all 8 functions. And actually, I highly encourage everyone to really study the 8 functions in depth and be able to simulate them. And I really recommend this because this means that you will be able to carry out more of these processes in your own life and not have to rely as much on the outside world. You'll be able to do things more for yourself and make things happen instead of having to outsource things because you don't know how to SI well, or you can't NE well. So learn the functions, see how you can simulate those functions if you don't have them in your top 4, or how you can work on them better, and go on that own deep dive of self-growth for your own self, and we will all become superhumans. Take over the world. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.